We are live.
Hello, we are live for the Tesla earnings call. Need more lights.
Yeah, it's not the most well-lit office.
No. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm pulling up the Tesla IR website. Let me share my screen. The call will start in 10, 12 minutes, theoretically.
The numbers are out.
Numbers are out. They look pretty good. Tell them what happened last time we tried to do the Tesla.
Yeah, last time we did a Tesla live stream was for the We Robot event, and Elon was an hour late. I think there was like a medical emergency in the crowd.
Yeah.
So
I don't think we'll have that problem today.
Yeah, not with the quarterly earnings. Shouldn't be a problem.
All right, here we go.
So
that is the Tesla.
So go over there and then click.
There we go. I like that better. All right, and come over here. Webcast. Listen.
Yeah.
Today's October 23rd. 11 minutes. We'll see if they actually start on time. So hit some of the numbers, Bryce, the highlights of the quarterly report. Stock's up about, what, $20 after hours?
Yeah.
8%?
So we have if you're not familiar, what happens with auto companies, and Tesla included, is they report their delivery numbers as soon as the quarter's over. And so the 1st of October, we got the delivery numbers, and those basically met expectations, but the stock's been down since then. So we kind of more or less know what the revenue is going to look like. And then the big question is, what are the margins going to be? How much profit did they actually make on those units, And so the big surprise, and probably the reason the stock is up, is that the margins came in better than expected. The gross margin company-wide was almost 20%, and that's a great number to print. For comparison purposes, it was 17.9% last year. And for a company with $100 billion plus in revenue, that each margin point is a lot of profit.
That's quarterly. It's $100 billion annual.
Right,
so
right.
1 basis point on $100 billion is $10 million.
Right. Yeah.
100 basis points would be 1 billion.
Yeah. And so Tesla's operating profit was 2.7 billion, and that was at 54% from last year.
Whereas overall revenues were up 5.
Total revenues were up, 5 or 6.
Yeah. Single digits.
Yeah, basically, and that was a slight miss on the top line. But like I said, it was really all about the margins.
And the earnings themselves came in at like 72 cents versus 61 cents expected, which is also better than expected. But Bryce, when we talk about these types of companies, especially Tesla or some of the others, when we invest in them, we're picturing 5, 10, 15 years of growth and revolutions changing the world with the Optimus robot in this case, and the full self-driving and Robotaxis.
Yeah.
And so the quarter-to-quarter numbers should be taken with a grain of salt, because we're not even with Optimus robot, while pictured here on the screen, it's not even out in the real world yet.
Yeah.
Oh, did I share the wrong screen? I had 2 IR screens up.
Yeah. Should we make ourselves bigger until it starts?
Yeah, until the call starts. That's good.
Those are kind of the big picture numbers. I mean, highlights within the quarter itself. So one of the reasons, and you'll probably hear this from bearish people tomorrow, Tesla's regulatory credit revenue was an all-time record.
No, second highest ever.
Second highest ever?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, Tesla gets paid by the traditional auto manufacturers because
I laugh every time I say it out loud.
The government has created this carbon regulatory scheme. And so in order to produce traditional vehicles with gas and diesel motors, you have to have a certain amount of credits.
And so you buy credits from Tesla because they don't make any ICE vehicles.
Right. And so that's all pure profit for Tesla.
Literally, it's like 99.9% free money.
Yeah.
And it's from your competitor. Yeah. Literally, Ford has to write like $1 billion check every quarter to Tesla if Ford doesn't want to make EVs. And, the Fords and the GMs and the Volkswagens, number one, their EVs suck. So number two, nobody buys them. So number three, Ford and then Volkswagen and GM are like, maybe we shouldn't do this anymore. And so every time they decide not to do EVs, they write a bigger check to Tesla each quarter.
Yeah, I'm going to look at the financials and see what the actual size of the credits were this quarter. But maybe they didn't print here.
I want to read them the numbers I was looking at. Aside from the regulatory credits themselves, which is not in what the numbers I'm about to read you. Total automotive revenues this year, $20 billion, just about on the nose. Energy
quarter,
on the quarter. Yeah. Thank you. energy, 2.4 billion, which is 12% of revenue. It's 12% of automotive revenue. Services and other revenue, which includes when I go use the supercharger, when I pay Tesla $10 every month for bandwidth to the car, when I pay Tesla anything else on a monthly basis,
and like repairs and stuff are in there too, like at the service
centers revenue. At any rate, it's 2.8 billion. So cars themselves, including full self-driving revenue, are only about 75% of total Tesla sales. 25% of the business comes from non-cars.
Right. That's a big change from
when I first bought the stock.
3 years ago.
5 years ago when I first bought the stock, number one, revenues were maybe $1 billion, and the other stuff was de minimis. And so, what happened now, you mentioned earlier to me that Tesla built their 7 millionth vehicle in October. Earlier this month.
Right.
So there are 6 billion, call it 6.5 billion Teslas on the road right now. 6.5 million, thank you. 6 billion road. That's
every person
one car for every person on the planet. Yeah, maybe that'd be a little optimistic. Might have one Optimus robot for every human on the planet, but you're not going to have a Tesla car for every human on the planet. At any rate, with 6 million cars on the road, you're going to be generating a lot more service revenue. It's sort of like iPhone sales, right? Like each year, Apple sells hundreds of millions of iPhones, but there are now 2 billion iOS devices on the planet. Is that what it is? And every one of those devices uses the App Store or pays something using Apple Pay or something, and Apple gets a cut, 30% of most revenues through the App Store, and I don't know, fraction of a percent on every Apple Pay that goes through, but they get paid every time. So their service revenues continue to rise, even if total penetration of iPhone sales doesn't rise. And that's what the idea is here also.
You may say this, but those are better margins too for services.
I don't know that I said it out loud. The margins where the car business right now is probably running 15 or 16% gross margins. The regulatory credits run 99% gross margins. The energy generation, call it, and storage revenue, they look, I'm putting solar on my house and we're getting batteries, the mega pack to go with it. I have a medically fragile daughter.
Probably Powerwall, right?
Powerwall, thank you, not mega pack. I use them the same.
Mega pack is like the size of a semi truck.
I know they're different. But
I thought maybe you could do. I mean, you could do that. As much energy as
I would power all of Paris ozone. I have a medically fragile daughter who needs oxygen. She has a trach. There's all kind. There's a lot of equipment that's going on 24/7 at our house. Our monthly bill is $700 or $800 a month for electricity. So we are buying solar, and we live in the desert too. So we're buying solar and buying batteries, and there's a payback period of about 6 years for that when your monthly bill is $700 a month. What is that annualized? $8,400 a year. And so in 5 years, that's $42,000. And so the entire, I get the state is, Elon likes to complain about government a lot, but how many billions of dollars has been put in Tesla's pocket by government bullshit regulations about carbon trading credits, giving welfare to people rich enough to buy solar systems for their house? Everything's subsidized.
So here's the number I found it. $739 million in regulatory credits this quarter for Tesla, which is down from last quarter. I see it was $890 million last quarter.
So that's why it's the second highest ever.
Right.
So there's a direct correlation, early, say 2 or 3, share that tab instead. Get that on the bigger one, even bigger, third one there. So highlight the number that you're talking about right there. 739 is right there. And so you can see over the last 4 quarters how that has trended. And it's, if you went back a few years, Ford and GM and Volkswagen and everybody were trying to sell EVs, and they were actually getting to be a larger percentage of Ford and GM's 7 million car produced. So that is the fact that the ICE, by the way, stands for internal combustion engine. That's the Ford GMs. Those are the gasoline cars you drive. Those companies are not even really trying to make EVs anymore. I mean, they've realized they're getting their ass kicked by Tesla, left, right, up, down, every way. The software in the Teslas are better. The charging is better. The handling is better. The product is better. The stereo is better. The only thing that's not better, the interior. The fake leather that Tesla uses, even in the Model S, sucks compared to a Porsche or a Cadillac.
Right.
Like it really does. But everything else about the
seats
Tesla
themselves are very comfortable.
Yes, the seats are great.
Let me keep that.
But the interiors could be better, especially when you pay full price. I showed you guys last week on one of these calls. I've got a Cybertruck now. I ordered it 4.5 years ago, and I didn't pay up for the Foundation Edition that everyone's been able to get for the last 8 or 9 months, maybe 10 months now, almost a year. So I was one of the first people to get the non-Foundation edition of the Cybertruck. I had a Model S before that. I still have it. My wife took it over. And before that, I had a Model 3. I've loved them all. I mean, the Model 3 was probably the single biggest bang for a buck I ever got in a product I ever bought in my life.
That's how I felt on mine.
You love your Model 3.
Yeah, and like you said, for what you pay for it, it's an incredible
value. Incredible value. It's such a good product for the price.
Yeah.
The Model S I overpaid for. I bought it right at the top before Elon started cutting prices across the board on Tesla. And I can't say it's the biggest bang for a buck I've ever had, but I still freaking loved that car. And the Cybertruck is what I hoped for, but it's even better. What I hoped for was that it would have taken everything they learned in the Model S and the Model 3 and the Model Y and the Model X and everything they learned about charging and all of it. Like, it's more comfortable than the Model S. The stereo might be my single favorite feature. And the Model S was supposed to have the stereo, and it turns out it's actually in the Cybertruck. The Model S stereo is great. The Cybertruck stereo is some of the best quality sound I've ever heard in a car. So at any rate, I'm quite thrilled with my Cybertruck. I got the full self-driving, and it works fantastic in the Cybertruck. Which, like today, I was driving here to Las Cruces. I'm at Bryce's, our offices, the 10,000 Days Hedge Fund, Las Cruces headquarters.
Yeah, that's right.
I came down this morning, for this call, partly to show Bryce the Cybertruck, partly just to be around Bryce. We like to work together in person quite as much as possible. At any rate, we tried to pass the car on a 2-lane highway. And when it pulled into the passing lane, there was a semi coming down the other way. And I was like, yeah, we're going to turn this off. Well, and Cybertruck is like, the Tesla's always like, autopilot disengaged. Why? You almost drove into a semi. And it's getting close all the time.
On that, Tesla got some data on here and on and the AI itself, the hardware.
Sure. We're officially late on the stars, man.
So they are currently training the next version of full self-driving software on a 29,000 H100 cluster, and H100 is a chip from NVIDIA, the AI chip that you've heard a lot about probably. And 29,000 H100 in one cluster is already one of the largest computers out there. But they're going to have 50,000 H100s online by the end of October. And so with the expanded training capacity, they're going to be able to make the FSD way better. They'll be able to incorporate more data, prevent things like that from happening.
And beyond even the H100 and that over the next 3 months, looking at a year or two when the Blackwell, when the NVIDIA Blackwell, the next version of NVIDIA's AI chip, and in this case, it's actually on the entire circuit. When that actually gets deployed, Tesla is planning ahead already, building extra capacity in their data center for the H100s, and that should have
Good
an
afternoon,
immediate
everyone, and
advantage
welcome to
moving
Tesla's
forward
third
in
quarter
Q2.
2024 Q&A
Are they
webcast.
talking?
My name is Travis Axelrod, Head of Investor Relations, and I'm joined today by Elon Musk.
Disclaimer.
Sebastian
Don't
Nisman,
believe
and a number of
anything we
others.
say about the future.
Q3 results were announced at about 3 p.m. Central Time in the update deck we published at the same link as this webcast.
The other thing is that the total
During this call,
miles
we will discuss our business
now,
outlook and make forward-looking statements.
really high.
These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today.
Half of all FSD
Actual events or results could differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties,
So
including those mentioned in our
that's because
most
there's
recent
6
filings
million
with the
cars
SEC.
and another 500,000
During the
every
question and
quarter
answer portion of today's
on the
call,
road.
please limit yourself to one question and one
It doesn't
follow-up.
matter. You got the order of
Please use
magnitude
the raise
around.
hand button to join the question queue. Before we jump into Q&A, Elon has some opening remarks.
All right.
Thank you.
Elon.
So to recap, as someone saying, it's something that automotive industry are seeing year-over-year declines in order volumes in Q3. Tesla at the same time has achieved record deliveries. In fact, I think if you look at EV companies worldwide, to the best of my knowledge, no EV company is even profitable. And I'm not, to the best of my knowledge, there's no EV division of any company, of any existing auto company that is profitable. So it is notable that Tesla is profitable despite
But they also sell hybrid.
very challenging automotive environment. And this quarter actually is a record Q3 for us.
Added $2.7 billion.
So we produced our 7th million vehicle actually just yesterday. So congratulations to the teams that made it happen at Tesla. That's a staggeringly immense amount of work to make 7 million cars.
Hopefully Elon's not going to say anything, make the stock
So,
drop 10%.
to see, and we also have the energy storage business is growing like wildfire with strong demand for both Megapack and Powerwall. And as people know, on October 10th, we laid out a vision for an autonomous and electric future that I think is very compelling. So, the Tesla team did a phenomenal job there with actually giving people an opportunity to experience the future, where you have humanoid robots walking among the crowd, not with a canned video presentation or anything, but literally walking among the crowd, serving drinks and whatnot. And we had 50 autonomous vehicles. There were 20 Cybercabs, but there were an additional 30 Model Ys operating fully autonomously the entire night, carrying thousands of people doing, with no incidents the entire night. And for those who went there, it's worth emphasizing that the Cybercab had no steering wheel or brake or accelerator pedals, meaning there was no way for anyone to intervene manually, even if they wanted to, and the whole night went very smoothly. So, regarding the vehicle business, we are still on track to deliver more affordable models starting in the first half of 2025.
Deliver.
That
means they got to start manufacturing them right now.
This is, I think, probably people are wondering, well, what should they assume for vehicle sales growth next year? And at the risk of to take a bit of risk here, I want to give some rough estimate, which is I think it's 20 to 30% vehicle growth next year. Notwithstanding negative external events, like
700,000 units, dude.
Some big war breaks out, or interest rates go sky high, or something like that. Then we can't overcome massive force majeure events. But I think with lower cost vehicles,
another $2-3
with the advent of autonomy,
something
like 20 to 30% growth next year.
Not true. He's lying.
My best guess. And then Cybercab reaching volume production in 26. We do feel confident of Cybercab reaching volume production in 26, not just starting production, but reaching volume production in 26.
Wow. Okay.
And that, that should be substantial growth. We're aiming for, at least 2 million units a year of Cybercab.
Holy shit!
That'll be in more than one factory. But
this year at best.
I think it's at least 2 million units a year, maybe 4 million ultimately. So Yeah, these are just my best guesses, but you asked me my best guesses. Those are my best guesses.
The stock just came back to
The 46, the cell 4680 lines, the team is actually doing great work there. The 4680 is rapidly approaching the point where it is the most competitive cell. So when you consider the fully landed, the cost of a battery pack fully landed in the US, net of incentives and duties, the 4680 is tracking to be the most competitive, meaning lower cost per kilowatt hour fully considered than any other alternative, which is not quite there yet, but we're close to being there, which I think is extremely exciting. And we've got a lot of ideas to go well beyond that. So I think if we execute well, the 4680 will have the Tesla internally produced cell will be the most cost competitive cell in North America. A testament to a tremendous amount of hard work there by the team. So that's a rule. We'll continue to buy a lot of cells from our competitors. Our intent is not to make
don't know.
Provide to make cells just internally. So I don't want to set off any alarm bells here. We're obviously increasing substantially our vehicle output and our stationary storage output. So we need a lot of cells. And most of them will still come from suppliers, but I think it is some good news that the Tesla internal cell is tracking to be the most competitive in the US. So with respect to autonomy, as people are experiencing in the cars,
Just
really from week to week, there are significant improvements in the miles between interventions. So with the new version 12.5, the release of full self-driving in Cybertruck, the combining the code into a single stack so that the city driving and the end-to-end highway driving are one stack, which is a big improvement for the highway driving. So it's just all neural nets. And the release of actually Smart Summon. We try to have a sense of humor here at Tesla.
You noticed, Elon.
And we're also, so that's 12.5. Version 13 of FSD is going out soon.
Just leave it here.
Ashok will elaborate
Wrap it
more
up.
on that.
Thanks, gentlemen. No Q&A.
Cool. We expect to see roughly a 5 or 6 fold improvement in miles between interventions compared to 12.5.
Wow.
And actually, looking at the year as a whole, the improvement in miles between interventions, we think will be at least 3 orders of magnitude. So that's a very dramatic improvement in the course of the year. And we expect that trend to continue next year. So
Said 14 next year.
The current internal expectation, internal expectation for the Tesla FSD having longer miles between intervention than human is the second quarter of next year. Which means it may end up being the third quarter, but it's next. It seems extremely likely to be next year.
Just
Sure, do you want to anything like that?
Mark
So measuring miles between critical interventions. Like you mentioned, Elon, we already made a 100x improvement with 12.5 from starting of this year, and then with V13 release, we expect to be 1000x from the beginning, from January of this year on my production release software. And this came in because of technology improvements, going to end-to-end, having higher frame rate, partly also helped by hardware force, more capabilities, so on. And we hope that we continue to scale the neural network, the data, the training compute, etc. By Q2 next year, we should cross over the average human miles for critical intervention or like collision in that case.
I mean, that is just unvarnished our internal estimate.
Yes.
That's no sandbagging or anything else. Our internal estimate is Q2
Elon's never
next year
said
to
that
be
in his life.
safer than
He
human,
over promises,
and then to continue
bags.
with rapid improvements thereafter. Vast majority of humanity has no idea that Teslas can drive themselves. So, especially for something like a Model 3 or Model Y, it looks like a normal car. So you don't expect a normal car to be able to be intelligent enough to drive itself. The Cybercab looks different. Cybertruck looks different, but Model Y and Model 3 they're good looking cars, but they look fairly normal. You don't expect a fairly normal looking car to have the intelligence, enough AI to be able to drive itself, but it does. So we do want to expose that to more people, and so we're doing, every time we have a significant improvement in the software, we'll roll out another sort of 30-day trial, so to encourage people to try it again. And we are seeing a significant improvement in adoption. So the take rate for FSD has improved substantially, especially after the 1010 event.
Oh, FSD update has improved since then.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's no need to wait for Robotaxi or
wanting to buy the
Cybercab
full
or
self-driving software while
full
it's priced
autonomy.
at this
We expect to
price
achieve
point,
that
because if
next
ever
year
does
with
get to the
with
point
our
where
existing vehicle line.
robotaxis, it's, the value of the
Um,
software is fivefold.
For what it's worth, actually, someone gives a small taste of what it's going to look like. The car able to drive itself to the user within private parking lots. Currently, it's speed limited, but then it's going to quickly be increased. And we already had more than 1 million usage in terms of smart summon.
Yep. So, and we have for Tesla employees in the Bay Area, we already are offering a ride-hailing capability. So you can actually use with the development app, you can request a ride, and it'll take you anywhere in the Bay Area. We do have a safety driver for now, but
Did you hear that?
the software
Wow.
required to do that.
That's what we've been waiting for.
We've developed. Wait, David, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. It's David. We showed some screenshots of this in the Q1 shareholder deck. And this is real. We've been testing it for the better part of the year, and the building blocks that we needed in order to build this functionality and deliver it to production, we've been thinking about and working on for years. It just so happens that we've used those building blocks to deliver great features for our customers in the meantime, such as sharing your profile, synchronizing it across cars, so that every single car that you jump into, whether it's another car that you own or a car that somebody's loaned to you or a rental car that you jump into, it looks exactly like yours. Everything synchronized, seat mirror positions, media, navigation, everything is the same. Just what you would expect from
So smart.
one of our robotaxis.
Every other,
We gave that functionality to our customers right now because we built it intending for it to be used in the future.
The software is not buggy enough that when you
We're using that functionality now.
Yeah.
All the end-to-end cybersecurity that we knew we were going to need to deliver that functionality.
239.
Sending a navigation to destination from your phone to the vehicle. And so, you're doing that now with the ride-hailing app, but it's something that we've made available to customers for years. Seeing the progress on a route in the mobile app, that's something you'll need for the ride-hailing app, but again, we released it in the meantime. So it's not like we're just starting to think about this stuff right now while we're building out, the early stages of our ride-hailing network. We've been thinking about this for quite a long time, and we're excited to get the functionality out there.
Yeah, and we do expect to roll out ride-hailing in California and Texas next year to the public. Now, the California is there's quite a long regulatory approval process. I think we should get approval next year, but it's contingent upon regulatory approval. Texas is a lot faster, so it's I'd say like we'll definitely have it available in Texas, and probably have it available in California, subject to regulatory approval. And then
Come on, Elon.
And maybe some other states actually next year as well, but at least California and Texas.
That's not news.
So I think that'd be very exciting.
2 weeks.
That's really a profound change. Tesla becomes more than a sort of vehicle and battery manufacturing company at that point.
Yep.
So we published our Q3 vehicle safety report, which shows one crash for every 7 million miles of autopilot. That compares to the US average of one crash roughly every 700,000 miles. So it's currently showing a 10x safety improvement relative to the US average. And we continue to expand our AI training capacity to accommodate the needs of both FSD and Optimus. We are currently not training compute constrained.
Right.
That's probably the biggest limiting factors that the FSD is actually getting so good that it takes us a while to actually find mistakes.
Ways to improve it.
we
No,
start
I almost ran
getting
into a
to
semi
where
on the way to work
it could
today,
take
bro.
10,000 miles to
Send in
find
a
a
clip today.
mistake. It takes a while to actually figure out which is this is this software build better than is software build A better than software build B? It actually takes a while to figure it out because neither one of them are making mistakes.
Just eliminating drunk
Or
driving will
take a long time to make
be a
mistakes.
benefit to
So
society.
that's actually the single biggest limiting factor is how long does it take us to figure out which version is better? So it's sort of high class problem. Obviously, having a giant fleet is very helpful for very
Cars on the road every day.
And then with Optimus, we showed a massive improvement in Optimus's dexterity and movement on October 10th, and our next gen hand and forearm, which has 22 degrees of freedom, which is double the prior hand and forearm. It's extremely human-like.
Half asleep. Come on, man.
It also has much better tactile sensing.
Bro, put them up on the stage.
Yeah.
It's really
Hard.
I feel confident saying that we have the most advanced humanoid robot by a long shot,
Stumping he's doing.
and we're moreover the only company that really has all of the ingredients necessary to scale humanoid robots.
All these startups, even if they make a prototype, they're not going to be able to scale the robots.
Because the things that what other companies are missing is
They're
that
gonna have to go
they're
to
missing
Chinese
the AI brain,
manufacturer to
and they're missing the
make
ability to really scale to very high volume production.
whereas Tesla could
So you
internal
sometimes see some impressive video
already got
demos,
the
but what they
technology. Start making robots.
they lack
inside
the
cars.
localized AI and the ability to scale volume to very high numbers. As I've said on a few occasions before, I think Optimus will ultimately be the most valuable part. So
What do you say?
I think
Be the most
it has a good
profitable.
chance of being the most valuable product ever made.
Yes, agreed. If that actually rolls out,
For the energy business, that's doing extremely well.
it'll be what
And there's the opportunity ahead is gigantic. The Lathrop Megapack factory reached 200 megapacks a week,
Mhm.
which is now a 40 gigawatt hour a year run rate.
It's a lot.
And we have a second factory in Shanghai that will begin with a 20 gigawatt hour a year run rate in Q1 next year, so just next quarter.
maybe batteries.
And that'll also scale up. It won't be long before we're shipping 100 gigawatt hours a year stationary storage at Tesla. And
The ship right now.
that'll, I mean,
6.
that'll ultimately grow, I think, to multiple terawatt hours per year.
Okay, so 4 times,
24, yeah.
It has to actually, in order to have a sustainable energy future,
and that means
You're
revenue
at the
will be
10
10
scale,
billion, 12
you're
billion,
not really moving the needle.
instead of 2.5, 3 billion.
Per
So,
quarter.
if you look at our
That's
admittedly very complicated
in a year.
last master plan, which I think actually has too much detail. Maybe I'll ask Grok to analyze it and
Shorten it up.
yeah, give us the TLDR on the last master plan. But we showed in that master plan that it is possible to take all of Earth to a fully sustainable energy situation using sustainable energy, power generation, and batteries and electric transport. And there are no fundamental material limitations. Like there's not some very rare material that we don't have enough of on Earth.
That's key,
We actually
right?
have
The
enough
rare
materials
materials
to
that you need from China and stuff, like, you need to
take
design
all of
that.
human civilization, make it fully sustainable.
It's done.
And even if civilization dramatically increased its electricity usage, it would still be fully sustainable. You know, one way to think of the progress of a civilization, this may sound a little esoteric, but is percentage completion of Kardashev scale.
What?
So
I have no idea.
Kardashev scale 1 would be you're using all the power of a planet. We're currently less than 1% on Kardashev level 1. Level 2 would be you're using all the power of the sun. And level 3, all the power of the galaxy. So we've got a long way to go. Long way to go. When you think in Kardashev terms, it becomes obvious that by far the biggest source of energy is the sun. Everything else is
It's true.
in the noise.
What's the best solar company?
So
Oh, the best solar company is the same as the best battery company.
Which is the same as the best AI company?
in
Best
conclusion,
robotics company.
Tesla is focused on building the future of energy, transport, robotics, and AI.
Also the best.
And this is a time when others are
Yeah,
just
Mike.
focused on managing around near-term trends.
Tesla is the answer.
We think what we're doing is the right approach,
You didn't
and
infer that.
if we execute on our objectives, and I think we will, Tesla, my prediction is Tesla will become the most valuable company in the world.
Yeah. We've
Probably
been
by
saying
long-
that for a year and
long
a half,
shot.
2 years now. Let's get to it.
I want to thank the Tesla team once again for strong execution in a tough operating environment, and we're looking forward to building an incredibly exciting future. Thank you.
Tesla team.
Thank you, Tesla
Thank you very
team
much, Elon. And Bob has some opening remarks as well.
Yeah, thanks.
and CFO guy.
Our Q3 results were overall positive and once
Oh,
again
stop.
demonstrate the scale to
Stop
which
right here.
business has evolved.
You tell me.
Over the years,
We've
with
had
a
more
generation of
CFOs
record
than I had.
operating cash flows of 6.3 billion.
That's a lot.
Automotive revenues grew both quarter-on-quarter and year-on-year. While we had unit volume growth, we did experience reduction in ASPs, primarily due to the impact of financing incentives. As a reminder, we are providing these incentives primarily using third-party banks and financial institutions and recognize the cost of these incentives as an upfront reduction to revenue. We released FSD for Cybertruck and other features like actually smart suburban, like Elon talked about in North America,
In their vehicle.
which contributed 326 million of revenues in the quarter. We continue to see elevated levels of regulatory credit sales with over 2 billion of revenues so far this year.
Wow.
To expand on this, at an industry level, China continues to outperform US and Europe by a factor of 3. And if there is something to be learned from that, this gives a signal of what is to come in other regions as customers' acceptance of EV grows. And we feel that is the right strategy to build affordable and more compelling EVs. Our focus remains on growing unit volume while avoiding a buildup of inventory. To support this strategy, we're continuing to offer extremely compelling vehicle financing options in every market. When you compare any vehicle in our lineup with other OEMs, we believe our vehicles provide much better value, particularly when you consider the safety features, performance, and unparalleled software
There's 240.
functionalities like David also talked about.
Stop.
Include
Cost 240,
Also,
Bryce.
Ashok had talked about around autonomy, music options, parental controls, and much more. While every vehicle in our lineup comes up with these capabilities, there is an awareness gap, not just with buyers, but at times even with existing owners. We plan on making these more visible in our interactions with both existing and future customers.
Do you think prices have stayed?
Automotive margins improved
They've
quarter-over-quarter
cut so far this
as a result of
quarter,
FSD feature
now than it was 3
discussed
months
before.
ago.
Yeah.
Increase in our overall production and delivery volume,
So as long as
continued benefit from commodity pricing,
I'll just keep going
and
down.
more localized deliveries in region, which resulted in lower freight and duties.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
Sustaining
that's-
these margins in Q4, however, will be challenging.
I mean, part of that
Given the
strategy is just
current
continuing
economic
to put
environment.
your thumb on.
Know that we are focused
The
on
rest of the
the
EV
cost per
companies
vehicle,
have
and there are numerous work streams within
tried
the
to
company
compete against the
to
Chinese.
squeeze out costs
The
without
product is better than
compromising on
Chinese
customer
EVs,
experience.
as you and I saw in Hong
Yeah,
Kong.
something that's a helpful hopefully a helpful macro trend is if there's a decline in interest rates, this has massive effect
I jinxed it. We're 238 again.
on automotive.
No, I
demand.
shouldn't have said 240 out
The
loud.
vast majority of people, or the demand is driven by the monthly payment. Can they afford the monthly payment? So I think most likely we'll see continued decline in interest rates, which helps with affordability of vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, that is one trend which we observed in the industry that, because of the affordability being impacted because of interest rates, people are holding on to the cars longer, especially in the US. And that is actually having an impact on the overall industry too. As we discussed earlier, as we discussed in prior quarters, energy deployments fluctuate quarter over quarter due to customer readiness, location of orders being fulfilled, and not necessarily an indicator of demand or production within the quarter. While we did see a decline in Q3, we expect to grow deployments sequentially in Q4 to end the year with more than double the of last year. Energy margins in Q3 were a record at more than 30%. This is a function of mix of projects being deployed in the quarter. Note that there will be fluctuation in margins as we manage through deployments and our inventory. Our pipeline and backlog continue to grow quarter over quarter as we fill our 2025 production slots, and we're doing our level best to keep up with the demand. Just coming back on automotive margins, I talked about what is happening. One other thing which I want to also share is that we will continue to keep whatever we can to squeeze, like I said before, about squeezing out the cost. But this is something which we also are very capable of. I mean, just in Q3, we reached our lowest cost per vehicle. And that is a trend which we want to keep focus on. Then going on to service and other, we continue to show improvements in Q3. This was a result of better performance, both in our service business, which includes collision, parts sales, and merchandise, and continued growth in supercharging. These fleet-based revenues will continue to grow as the overall fleet size increases.
16.
Our operating expenses declined quarter over quarter and on a year-on-year basis. This is partially due to the restructuring we undertook in Q2. Cost saving from these initiatives were partially offset by increase in costs related to our AI efforts. We've started using the GPU cluster based out of our factory in Austin ahead of schedule and are on track to get 50K GPUs deployed in Texas by the end of this month. One thing which I'd like to elaborate is that we're being very judicious on our AI compute spend too, and saying how best we can utilize the existing infrastructure before making further investments. On the CapEx front, we had over $3.5 billion in the quarter. This was a sequential increase largely because of investments in AI compute. We now expect the CapEx for the year to be in excess of $11 billion. We shared our vision for the future at the We Robot event at the beginning of the month. The Tesla team is hyper-focused on delivering on that vision, and all efforts are underway to make it a reality. While we've achieved significant progress this year, it will take time to get this as we pioneer new and incredibly complex technologies and navigate a fragmented regulatory landscape. The future is incredibly bright, and I want to thank the Tesla team once again for all their help.
Great. Thank you very much, Vaibhav. Now we'll go to investor questions.
All
The
right.
first one is Tesla still on track to deliver the more affordable model next year, as mentioned by Elon earlier? And how does it align with your AI product roadmap?
Sure. I mean, as Elon and Vaibhav both said, we are on plan to meet that in the first half of next year. Our mission has always been to lower the cost of our vehicles to increase the adoption of sustainable energy and transport. Part of that is lowering the cost of our current vehicles, which is where all of the personally owned vehicles that we sell today come in. But the next stage in that really, as it fits into AI roadmap, is when we bring in Robotaxis, which lowers the initial cost of getting into an EV. And that's really where we see the marriage of EV roadmap and the AI roadmap.
Yeah. It'll be like with incentives sub 30K. which is kind of a key threshold.
Great. Thank you very much. Similar question next. When can we expect Tesla to give us the $25,000 non-Robotaxi regular car model?
We're not making it on Robo.
Yeah, all our vehicles today are robotaxis.
Yes, I think we've made very clear that we're the future is autonomous. I mean, it's going to be, and I actually said this many years ago, but that in my strong belief, and I believe that is panning out to be true, so and it'll be very obvious in retrospect, is that the future is autonomous electric vehicles, and non-autonomous gasoline vehicles in the future will be like riding a horse and using a flip phone. It's not that there are no horses. Yeah, there are some horses, but they're unusual. They're niche. So it just everything's going to be electric autonomous. I think this is blind, like it should be frankly blindingly obvious at this point that is the future. So a lot of automotive companies, most automotive companies have not internalized this, which is surprising, because we've been shouting this from the rooftops for such a long time, and it will accrue to their detriment in the future. But all of our vehicles in the future will be autonomous.
Even today.
Yes, all the vehicles that we've really made, all the 7 million vehicles, the vast majority are capable of autonomy.
What we're saying over here is like the $25,000
currently
car
making
is
on the order of 35,000
but if you're going to
autonomous vehicles a
create
week.
full autonomy,
Compare that to
Robotaxis,
say Waymo's entire fleet, it's less
driver in
than,
it,
they have less than 1,000
the
cars.
short-term
They
pointless.
make 35K a week.
Car
Yeah, and our cars look normal.
$100,000.
Yeah, they mostly look normal.
Earnings they can
The
generate
Cybertruck
for a
looks,
few
yes,
years.
thankfully,
Even a $25,000 full self-driving
looks-
can do that.
abnormal. And then the Cybercab / Robotaxi, we wanted to have something futuristic looking. And I think it does look futuristic.
It does. Cybercab. It's cool, man.
It's worth noting with respect to the Cybercab, it's actually not just a revolution in vehicle design, but a revolution in vehicle manufacturing that is also coming with the Cybercab. The cycle time, like the units per hour of the Cybercab line, is like, this is just really something special. I mean, this is probably half order of magnitude better than other car manufacturing lines. Like not in the same league is what I'm saying. Not in the same league. So it's and I said like several years ago that maybe the hardest Tesla product to copy will be the factory. You can't just like buy a factory.
Yeah, you can't reverse engineer a factory. It's have to buy it.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
if we can, yeah. We're rapidly evolving in manufacturing technology. So
True. And that's one of the things that Elon is so.
anyway, there's like basically I think
never
having
settles, hey, we've got a
a
great
regular 25K model is pointless.
Just forever.
Yeah,
No,
it'd be silly. Like it would be completely at odds with what we believe.
Fine.
In autonomous world, what matters is
Unnecessary
lowest cost
steps.
per mile of
Yeah.
efficiency of that vehicle, and that's what we've done with
Yeah,
the Robotaxi.
exactly. Autonomous, it's fully considered cost per mile, is what matters. And if you try to make a car that is, essentially a hybrid manual automatic car, it's not going to be as good as a dedicated autonomous car. So yeah, Cybercab is just not going to have steering wheels and pedals. It's fully designed optimized for autonomy. But no, it'll cost on the order of cost roughly 25K. So it is a 25K car, and you will be able to buy one on it exclusively if you want. So
You
Just
can't
what
charge
has to be-
25,000 for it if it's got full
you don't need it.
It's going to be 25,000 without.
Great. Thank you very much.
If the autonomy
The next question
the
is,
full
what is
self-driving
Tesla
is
doing to
20,000.
alleviate long wait times at service centers?
So we aim on solving problems at the source, so at the factory before they can even affect our customers.
But it
We
can
provide
generate
services,
$20,000
service and
per
Yeah,
year.
it really is.
don't even have them.
If the car doesn't break,
Yeah, exactly.
that's the best thing.
Don't see anyone with the Tesla shirt. You either do it,
Yeah,
fix the issue upstream or do it remotely,
Yeah, I mean,
do it
you
through
can't.
software.
Yeah.
They can be at work or at home and, the car can be parked. And we address and fix the issue. And we've partnered the field with service to make sure we're looking at the same issues. And additionally, just in Q3 and Q4 of this year alone, we have opened and will open in total at nearly 70 locations. And in North America, we significantly expanded the size of each location and have doubled the size last year compared to this year.
Yeah, I think there's like actually a lot of merit to having large service centers because you can have specialization of labor. You can start to approach. Yeah, it should be more factory-like. Where you can have dedicated lanes for particular types of service. And it's way easier for somebody to become expert in a few different types of repairs than in every repair.
Exactly. This has helped us with the base instead of these heavy repairs, like clogging up a lane. They've dedicated lanes for different type of repairs. And so it's throughput matters and really treating it like a factory.
It's just a computer on
This
wheels.
is where Tesla's structure, I think, Tesla has a structural advantage relative to the rest of the auto industry
The wireless charger.
because we make the cars and we service the cars.
I really do. I
Whereas
know it's so simple
there's a bit of
every morning.
A conflict of interest
But I
with
don't
the dealer model
Refer to
and the sort of
Yeah.
traditional OEM and dealer model where the dealerships make most of their money on service.
It's only wireless.
And so
You just drive over.
they obviously it's disincented to reduce the servicing cost.
Yeah.
Whereas in our case, we are incented to reduce the servicing cost because we carry that servicing cost.
Yeah.
And we've got a good feedback with our cars.
The best.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe we're working with the factory, with the service leaders together and send people from the factories to the field and field
Yeah.
to the factory to see it firsthand.
Exactly.
Provide suggestions for
Remember, the auto
manufacturing as well as for engineering on design.
people told.
Yeah, so I view this as a fundamental structural advantage of Tesla versus the rest of the auto industry.
Make it on the service,
Yeah.
but you need a fleet.
Has to do a bunch of work
on the software side,
Services.
to automate
Fact that Tesla actually makes
diagnostics,
profit
just
just on selling
identifying
cars is
what
incredible.
needs to be done into a car before it comes into service, but also automating all of the preparation work and aligning all of the resources that are necessary in order for
I'd say.
the car to be very efficiently worked on once it arrives. So the parts are
There, like the lift is scheduled, the technician
This
schedule,
is great.
everything
Yeah,
is really good.
This is what's wrong with me. It tells us the service center.
The car
Get everything ready.
Firing.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true. Or about a year ago, remember?
Instead of customer trying to translate the cars, telling us directly and we're pulling that. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need, most of the time you don't need to diagnose the car when it arrives, the car, this is like, again, a fundamental technology advantage and structural advantage compared to the rest of the auto industry.
Yeah, I guess
I think it's underappreciated
About
as to what all we are able to do.
Yeah.
And that's why, because like you said before, most of our cars, except for Cybertruck, look the same.
Yeah.
Right? So people don't realize that it has so much capability.
Yeah. They look better than other cars, but they're not like obviously like super futuristic.
Yes.
Right. The Cybertruck on the other end looks like a spaceship.
Great.
I love my
Thank you very much.
Cybertruck, but I hate the
The
amount
next
of
question
attention.
is, please provide an update on the Semi. What will the next stage of growth look like and when will FSD be ready?
Sure. So as we posted in the earnings,
Buy something else.
we're progressing swiftly on the build of the semi factory in our Gigafactory in Reno. We've released all our major capital expenditures for that program. And we're on track to start pilot builds in the second half of next year with production starting in the first half of 2026 and ramping really throughout the year to full production.
Oh, there's a lot of money.
Semi, growth will largely depend on our customers' adoption of the product.
Well, I don't think we're going to be demand limited, honestly.
Yeah, which I was going to say, which is like a
Not at all.
no-brainer for the
yeah.
semi, because it's really a commodity of total cost of ownership.
Yes, exactly. We have
Taking a long time.
kind of ridiculous demand for the Semi.
In that world where it's about how much do I spend to move
Yeah,
goods
exactly.
cents per mile.
But you
it's
don't like
a
money?
no-brainer.
Fundamentally, if you've got a Semi where the fully considered cost per mile for a ton of transport is better than, say, a diesel truck, any company that doesn't adopt an electric Semi will lose. It's not a subject.
You don't like money?
Whether do you like
That's
the
fine.
I mean, we want the style. We want to have a beautiful semi truck. But frankly, if we made an ugly semi truck, it wouldn't matter.
And this is proving so in our fleets and in Pepsi's fleet partner. In fact, the Pepsi actually said last week their drivers don't want to go back.
It's as soon as we give anyone the electric semi, it's like that's like the choice.
It's what they want to drive.
Yeah. That's like so the most senior, like their top drivers, well, they get to drive the Tesla semi.
Hey, if you guys have any questions, comments,
it's the
throw
thing
them
they
in
want
the
to drive.
comments. It'll
It's-
show
it's-
up here
it's
to Bryce and
super
I.
fun
We'll
to
answer
drive. It's also
very
everything Elon and
It's easy to drive and it holds ass.
after
It's like
Q&A.
fast.
Super fast. Maybe too fast.
Well, but I mean, like
And
regular,
I'd
like
be curious,
like
out
you've
of
seen like the
140
videos of where like
people
I
listening
think like
right
Tesla
now,
electric semi
watching
like
right now, how many of you
can
guys
go
have
uphill.
actually been in a
speed-
Tesla?
It's speeding past like the diesel truck.
Or even cars.
Yeah, even cars. So like it's responsive.
I don't
It's
think one in
you
40 people have
you
been
know,
in a
you
Tesla.
floor it and the truck actually moves.
And that's a benefit not only for the driver and for the goods, but also for safety in terms of other drivers on the road. You don't get stuck behind a semi. You're not like in a slowdown situation in the on-ramp.
If
I
you
mean, how
haven't
that
been
plays
in a
into,
Tesla, just go
FSD
check
is the second part of
Go
the question.
drive it.
All of the semis.
It's a
have been-
better product.
so a couple hundred we've deployed already and the ones that we'll be building next year and throughout the future have all of the hardware and the cameras necessary to deploy FSD, and we're currently training with that small fleet that we have. And as soon as the fleet is trained and the neural nets are up, we'll get FSD onto that platform.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a massive improvement in driver fatigue, because and driver safety. We've got sort of the anti-jackknifing software. You don't have to worry about your brakes overheating if you go down a steep hill because we use regenerative, like that energy goes back into the pack.
Actually, when we leave Reno,
It's just like it's like radically better than a diesel semi. It's why the drivers love it.
Amen.
Great, guys. Thank you very much. Our next question
products,
is, when will Tesla incorporate X and Grok in all of the Tesla vehicles?
Well, I mean, these are relatively small fry things, but yeah, I think we'll keep expanding, what is available in the car on the screen, and also improving like the browser, so like just generally you can access anything you want in the car. In fact, for the Tesla, once you get to full autonomy, you actually want fully a system that is can do anything. Like if you want to browse the internet, if you want to ask AI questions, if you want to watch a movie, if you want to play a video game, if you want to do some productivity thing, you can do anything you want in an autonomous vehicle because you don't need to drive. So that's why the Cybertruck got a nice big screen and a great sound system. So you can watch a great movie.
How many shares of Tesla?
It's like being like in a postal movie theater. Awesome.
Yeah, this is why we've been building this functionality and gaming of the car, adding movies and other, all sorts of different media applications to the car, because,
is like
that's what you're gonna,
NVIDIA
that's what we built today.
million.
There's some really fun games, by the way. If people haven't tried it, there's like Castle Doom Bad
Yeah,
and
who's selling Tesla
Falloutopia
right
and a bunch of really fun games in the car.
We're constantly
Like
looking
tomorrow the
at,
thing could be at
what
250.
features
You're like,
that
all right,
we're
got
paying
out of
attention to what's most
239. Thank
commonly
goodness.
requested by our customers.
Yeah, play Castle Doom Bad. You won't regret it.
Great. Thank you guys very much. The next question is, Elon mentioned unsupervised FSD in California and Texas next year. Does that mean regulators have agreed to it in the entire state for existing hardware 3 and 4 vehicles?
I just said that.
No, as I said earlier, California loves regulation.
But they have a pathway.
Yeah, I mean, there's a pathway. Obviously,
I'm
Waymo
still
operates in
frustrated.
California, so there's just a lot of forms to fill out and a lot of approvals that are required. I mean, I'd be shocked if we don't get approval next year, but it's just not something we totally control. But I think we will get approval next year in California and Texas, and towards the end of the year, it will branch out beyond California and Texas.
New Mexico,
I
baby.
mean, I think it's important to reiterate this, like homologating or certifying a vehicle at the federal level in the US is done by meeting FMVSS regulations. All our vehicles today that are produced, that are autonomous capable, meet all those regulations. The Cybertruck will meet those regulations. And so the deployment of the vehicle to the road is not a limitation. What is a limitation is what you said at the state level, where they control autonomous vehicle deployment. Some states are relatively easy, as you mentioned, for Texas.
Yeah.
And other ones have pathways like California that may take a little longer. Other ones haven't set up anything yet. And so we will work
Yeah.
through those state by state and get it.
I do think we should have a federal,
I agree.
like the autonomous vehicles should be approved. It should be possible to.
Congress, if you're listening, let's get
Wait a
federal
minute.
AV.
They
There should- there should be a
calling
federal-
for
federal
more
approval.
regulation?
Process for autonomous vehicles. 'Cause, I mean, that's how the FMVSS is. Federal motor vehicle.
Facebook one.
The FMVSS is federal.
Elon.
Yeah, so I mean,
Um,
let it stay
in
on
2017,
there.
18, that we, it's when regulators started looking at it, and it's really kind of stalled since then, but we would appreciate and would support
Yeah.
helping out with those
It
regulations.
really needs to be
Becoming
like a
government
national
efficiency
approval
guy
is
and creating
important.
another agency.
You know, if there's a Department of Government Efficiency,
Pass it.
I'll
Well, it
try to help make that happen. And it's just for everyone, not just Tesla.
Yeah.
obviously,
Federal.
but, you know, just,
Passes the
we,
FSD law.
like some
approved under
things in the
federal
US
law,
are
and then
state by
it's
state
federal
regulated, like for example, insurance, like
It's under federal
it's
law.
incredibly painful to do it state by state, 50 states.
Laws.
And
Well,
I think we should
I'm
have, there should be
sorry,
a
it's
national.
incredibly difficult.
approval
Deal with
process
it.
for-
We don't want more federal regulations, Elon. You screw
Great.
yourself on that.
Thanks, guys. The next question is, what is the plan for 2025?
I mean, I think we're just talking.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no,
I mean, basically we talked through this. There's a lot going on. Elon already mentioned that we're working on cheaper models to come out. I mean, there work which the team is doing to get the factories ready today to try and make that happen.
Yeah, by the way, the amount of work required to make a lower cost car is insanely high. But like it is harder to get like 20% of the cost out of a car than it is to design the car and build the entire factory in the first place.
Yeah.
It's like excruciating. And there's not a lot of movies made about the heroes who got 20% of the cost out of a car. But let me tell you, there should be. Whoever who got that is.
I don't know how that's gonna be on the.
It's a little changes. It's not like a.
Yeah, it's like there should be the heroes who got 20% cost out of a car. It's like, damn, I'm gonna respect them.
we were talking about
It's like, you know, I think you probably could make a compelling movie, but it just no, like if you actually saw how hard if people actually saw how hard it was to do that, you'd be like, whoa, that's damn hard.
just yesterday, we were talking about potting.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you're like literally, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, when I do call it sort of like getting cost out of things, it's kind of like, it's like game of pennies. It's like Game of Thrones, but pennies. You know, first approximation, if you've got 10,000 items in a car, very rough approximation, and each of them costs $4, then you have a $40,000 car. So then if you want to make a $35,000 car, you've got to get 50 cents on average out of the 10,000 items.
Every time, every part.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, and then obviously the best is you delete some parts. In fact, we found we're able to delete a lot of parts. I'm very excited about the Cybercab design and the both, you know, how we're rethinking the design of a car for the Cybercab, designing it for ultra high volume production, and then designing a machine that builds the machine. That I think is also revolutionary, and it's just that there's no other car company that's even trying to do what we're doing. Like,
That's true.
I've never even heard of it actually. In fact, I'm certain there isn't one. I think our new machine that builds the machine, like it's
The machine that builds the
it's
machine.
it's inherent, it's designed to be like, you know, five times better than a traditional factory. Like cycle time.
Elon needs to-
Cycle time
Yeah.
and like
he's gonna
part
be-
deletion.
he's
certainly.
replacing
I don't think any other car
like,
company has
fleet. What's that
the
video?
same
he
level
talks
of
about
like,
all the time?
integration of
Yeah, and he's like
thought that we have when it comes to, like,
11,740.
when you design a part from a white sheet of paper, who's going to make it? Where's it going to be made? How's it going to be shipped? How's it going to be assembled into the vehicle? And like at any one point, if something is done in a silo, it becomes a bottleneck of either cost or time or efficiency. But with the Robotaxi, you know, the development, like we've done a good job on
Yeah.
combining all that
So
and then like
trying to sound like
blowing up how it's made
Yeah.
and saying it should be made this way.
Yeah. He's like,
And
"Look,
rethinking it all so
Elon
it's
is
the most
like,
efficient
I bet
factory possible.
Elon's
That shows
like-
our, it will show in our
Yeah.
CapEx efficiency
Yeah.
when we deploy it. It shows in the number of parts, it shows in the simplicity of the vehicle, but
I
also
know,
how it
that's funny.
performs in terms of like end user.
Bryce, right?
state.
Yeah.
Just to close out,
Style.
just on the energy
On
front also in
purpose.
25, we will have started manufacturing at the Mega Factory Shanghai.
No, it's because
We'll continue to increase our overall storage deployments with Powerwall 3. We plan to continue expanding our supercharging network, getting more OEMs
Have you been
on our
listening to
network.
Elon?
4680 and that sun ramp, as Elon talked about, that would keep going. And then we also will have our lithium refinery starting to produce. So there's a lot which is going on.
Great.
Yeah, so many things.
That,
I mean, the crazy, like,
right, he
the
can't.
crazy thing is like Tesla's winning basically on almost every single thing we're doing. If we're not winning now, we're on track to win. In arenas where there are entire large companies, that's the only thing they do.
I mean, it's a company, there are multiple companies within the company.
Yeah, Tesla's like many companies that won.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Just a few more. What is going on with the Tesla Roadster?
Fun things.
Well, I just like to thank our long-suffering
Doesn't matter.
deposit holders of the Tesla Roadster. The reason it hasn't come out yet is because the Roadster is not just the icing on the cake; it's the cherry on the icing on the cake. And so, our larger mission is to accelerate the progress towards a sustainable energy future. Try to do things that maximize the probability that the future is good for humanity and for Earth. And so that necessarily means that like the things like that are kind of like dessert. We'd all love to work on the Tesla, the next gen Tesla Roadster. It is super fun, and we are working on it. But it has to come behind the more things that have a more serious impact on the good of the world. So just thank you to all our long-suffering Tesla Roadster deposit holders. And we are actually finally making progress on that. And we're close to finalizing the design on that.
Close to finalizing the
It's really going to
design.
be
2029.
a spectacular.
So like that $32 billion in cash on Tesla balance sheet.
A friend of mine, Peter Thiel.
Not that very.
And sometimes Peter Thiel and I are rivals. We're really good friends. To be clear, Peter was lamenting how the future doesn't have flying cars. Well, we'll see.
Wow.
More to come.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. The next one is quite similar to other questions we've had, so I might combine it with the final question. So briefly, could you just detail how Robotaxi will roll out? Will it start with a Tesla deployed fleet and then allow customers to add theirs on like a subscription model? And then will Hardware 3 be capable of level 5 FSD?
Regarding the Hardware 3, what we saw with 12.5 was it was easier to make rapid progress with starting with Hardware 4 and figuring out the solution and then backporting it to Hardware 3 instead of directly working on Hardware 3, given that Hardware 4 has more like fundamental hardware capabilities. I think that trend will continue into the next few quarters as well, where we first figure out the solution rapidly with AI4,
By the way,
and then backport it, write the kernels. It just takes longer to develop those things because it's not fundamentally supported in the hardware and it's emulated. But yeah, it's initially working on Hardware 4, backporting it to Hardware 3.
Yeah, so it's the answer is we're not 100% sure, but our as Ashok mentioned, because by some measures Hardware 4 has really several times the capability of Hardware 3. It's easier to get things to work with Hardware 4, and then it takes a lot of effort to sort of squeeze that functionality into Hardware 3. There is some chance that Hardware 3 does not achieve the safety level that allows for unsupervised FSD. There is some chance of that, and if that turns out to be the case, we will upgrade those who have bought Hardware 3 FSD for free, and we have designed the system to be upgradable. So, and it's really more just to switch out the computer type of thing.
Mine has 4.
The cameras are they're capable, but anyway, we don't actually know the answer to that. But if it does turn out,
So maybe
we'll make sure we take care of those who have bought FSD on Hardware 3.
so that'd be this year.
Great. In the last few minutes that we have left, we will try to get in some analyst questions.
Not every car.
The first question will be coming from Pierre Farragut at New Street. Pierre, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Thanks a lot, guys, for taking my question. I was wondering about the compute you're ramping up. So you gave interesting statistics on how much you have, and you said you don't feel your compute constrained. And I was wondering, how you are putting to work this additional compute. Is that a game for you of creating larger and larger models, next generation of models that are larger, the way OpenAI go from GPT-3 to GPT-4? Or is that more like you're set on your model and you need to throw more and more compute to accelerate the pace of learning to improve reliability? And then I had a quick follow-up real quick on your rollout in Texas and in California next year. The plan as you see it today, is it to roll out a fleet or two with cars that will start with a supervisory, some onboard supervision, someone sitting at the wheel just in case, and removing the supervisors progressively? Or are you aiming for going fully fledged without even a human supervisor when you get started?
Yeah, man, that's the whole point. No,
Well, I guess regarding I'll answer the first part of the question. The nature of real world AI is different from, say, an LLM in that you have a massive amount of context. So that you've got case of Tesla 7 or 8 cameras that 9 up to 9 if you include the internal camera that so you've got gigabytes of context, and that is then distilled down into a small number of control outputs. Whereas it's like it's very rare to have. In fact, I'm not sure any LLM out there can do gigabytes of context. And then you've got to then process that in the car with a very small amount of compute power. It's all doable and it's happening, but it is a different problem than what, say, a Gemini or an OpenAI is doing.
That's what you
Now,
only
part of the way you can make up for the fact that the inference computer is
that kind of order of magnitude of spending on this AI
quite small is by spending a lot of effort on training. And just like a human, the more you train on something, the less mental workload it takes when you try when you do it. Like when the first time a human starts driving, it absorbs your whole mind. But then as you train more and more on driving, get very good, then the driving becomes a background task. It only absorbs a small amount of your mental capacity because you have a lot of training. So we can make up for the fact that the inference computer is it's tiny compared to a 10 kilowatt bank of GPUs, because you've got a few hundred watts of inference compute. We can make up that with heavy training. So yeah, that's and then there's also vast amounts of the actual petabytes of data coming in are tremendous. And then sorting out what training is important was of the vast amounts of video training or video data coming in from the fleet, what is actually most important for training? That's also quite difficult. But as I said, we're not currently training compute constrained. I'm not sure if you want to elaborate on it.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, the training helps both train larger models, also train quicker. But in the end, we still got to pick which models are performing better. So the validation effort to picking the models, because the miles per intervention is pretty large, we have to drive a lot of miles to go in closed loop. We do have simulation and other ways to get those metrics. Those two help. But in the end, that's a big bottleneck. Yeah, that's why we're not training compute constraint alone. And there's other axis of scaling as well, which is like data, figuring out which data is more useful. That is an important task, and we're focusing on that.
Yeah.
So as it relates to the second part of your question, Pierre, about safety drivers and rolling it out, each state has different requirements that, in terms of how many miles and how much time you need to have a safety driver and not have a safety driver. We're going to follow all those. We're not going to violate whatever regulations are out there, but safety is a priority. But the goal is obviously that when we're ready and safety is there, we'll remove all the drivers from the rideshare program.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like we think that we'll be able to have driverless Teslas doing paid rides next year, sometime next year.
All right, thank you. And our next question comes from Adam Jonas at Morgan Stanley. Adam, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Just had a question about the relationship between Tesla and xAI. Many investors are still not clear how the work at xAI is truly beneficial to Tesla. Some even take the view that the two companies may even be in competition with each other in terms of talent and tech, and even your time, Elon. So what's your message to investors on that relationship between Tesla and xAI, and where do you see it going over time? Thanks.
Say why he started xAI and how he had to have it to recruit.
Well, I should say that xAI has been helpful to Tesla AI, quite a few times in terms of things like scaling up, like training. Just even like recently in the last week or so, improvements in fault-tolerant training, where if you're doing a big training run and a node fails, being able to continue training and easy to recover from on a training run, XAI has been pretty helpful. But there are different problems. XAI is working on artificial general intelligence or artificial superintelligence. Tesla is trying to make autonomous cars and autonomous robots. They're different problems. So, yeah, I mean,
I think we've said this before also, like not all AI is equal, right? I mean, AI is a broad spectrum.
Yeah.
And we have our own swim lanes. Yes, there are certain things which we can collaborate on if needed, but for the most part, we're solving different issues.
Yeah, Tesla's focused on real world AI. And like as I was saying earlier, it is quite a bit different from an LLM. Because you have massive context in the form of video and some amount of audio that's got to be distilled very with extremely efficient inference compute. I do think Tesla's the most efficient in the world in terms of inference compute, because out of necessity, we have to be very good at efficient inference. We can't put 10 kilowatts of GPUs in a car. We've got a couple hundred watts, and it's a pretty well designed Tesla AI chip, but it's still a couple hundred watts. But there are different problems. I mean, it's just, the stuff that xAI does, like when it's running inference. I mean, it is running inference, like it's answering questions, it's answering testing questions on a 10 kilowatt rack. It's like, you can't put that in a car. It's a different problem.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
No idea what he was talking about. He thought it was fun.
So, xAI is because I felt there wasn't a truth-seeking digital superintelligence company out there. Like that's what it came down to. That there needed to be a truth-seeking, an AI company that is just very rigorous about being truthful. And so I'm not saying xAI is perfect, but that is that is at least the explicit aspiration. Even if something is,
I'm sure all the
completely incorrect, it should still be truthful.
This is true.
I think this is very important for AI safety. So
Only Elon can help save.
anyway, I think xAI has been helpful to Tesla and will continue to be helpful to Tesla, but there are very different problems. Great. And I mean, like, if you also think like what is, like, what other car company has a world-class chip design team? Like zero. What other car company has a world-class AI team like Tesla does? Zero. Those were all startups. They're created from scratch.
Great. Thank you, Elon. And I think that's unfortunately all the time that we have for today. We appreciate all of your questions and we look forward to your next quarter. Thank you very much and goodbye.
He hates the sell-side analyst, man. He really does. And he let Adam. I think he actually doesn't mind Adam. He's bullish. No, dude. A few years ago, Adam he demolished the stock one day by putting out this report that was like, our bull case is $600, our bear case is $4.
Oh, really?
Something like that. And the stock got demolished. And it was sort of like, well, the bear, if it's going, and I'm not exaggerating with Ford, but his bear case was like $20. I'm dude, if that thing heads back to 20, it's going to zero.
Yeah.
Like it's going bankrupt if it goes down 80%
right.
from here. But Adam has been mostly bullish on Tesla for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
He missed part of this huge move, like most sell-side analysts did.
Right.
But overall, thoughts?
Send us questions if you have them. We'll try to answer them. But yeah, we can give you our takeaways. I mean, it was a very solid quarter in terms of the financials, I thought. And it's
especially given what the stock has done heading into this quarter.
Right.
I think the market really was expecting an ugly miss and even a guide lower on volumes and revenues for next quarter and next year. And he did not do that.
Obviously, the prediction that they're going to grow unit volumes 30 to 40%.
Is that what you 30 to 40?
30 to 40%, right? Or 20 to 30.
I thought you said 20 to 30.
One or the other. So anyways, but that's got the market excited. I think analysts are predicting like 10% revenue growth next year. But if they grow unit volumes 30%, then it's going to be a lot larger number than that, especially when you include services revenue growing rapidly, energy revenue growing rapidly, and all the other FSD growing rapidly.
Yeah. So he basically tried to tell the analysts your numbers are too low for next year, which would mean the analysts are going to have to come out tomorrow and raise their numbers for revenue and earnings and everything else for next year.
But like if you, even though absolute terms, like the numbers could be better for revenue and stuff, there's clearly a trend even this year. It looks like if you just want to follow that trend, first quarter was kind of the washout, right? And now we're in this like a nice uptrend again with volumes and revenue, and then obviously the energy business is growing rapidly. So, it's big secular growth there. So hopefully the downward cycle in the EV unit volumes is behind us.
And the Tesla's in a spot all of its own here, where EV sales, like Scott, you were saying, like the rolling out a $25,000 car before FSD goes full autonomy, Robotaxi, like the EV business is almost going to end up being a sideshow for Tesla. Most tech companies, I guess the analogy you could make was forever Apple was dependent upon Mac sales, and at some point you were like, hey, iPod might actually be something, and hey, someday there might be a pocket computer that Apple makes that would be amazing. And so you fast forward 20 years from when the iPod came out, and today Apple is not a computer company, it's an iPhone company.
Right.
And, in 20 years, Tesla is not a car company, it's a Optimus robot and Robotaxi company and or energy company too.
We haven't even mentioned the possibility that they end up like having a cloud business with Dojo, and also like the distributed compute available with all of the inference sitting in the cars all the time that's not being used. Right?
I'm glad he didn't talk about that shit today.
Yeah.
Nobody believes that he's going to use the computers, the chips sitting idle in a car to help inference and create compute power and everything else.
No.
Every time he says that, the stock, everybody's like, they didn't know.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is there are 6 million computers with wheels on them sitting in people's driveways and and driving around, most of the time sitting there idle, which could be you
doing something productive.
You could tap into that compute. I mean, the distributed computing has been around for 30, 40 years. I mean, I remember when it used to be a big deal that you would use distributed computing. You could download little app into your computer, and it's extension to your browser that allowed you to participate in the what I don't remember what the acronym is, but it was trying to find alien life contacting US.
Gotcha.
SETI, I think, was the acronym. And I had it on my computer, and that way, like when you went home at night, your computer would sit there and help cycle through some of the information, the data that was being received by giant antennas and things trying to find radioactive or voice or they're trying to figure out if anybody outside of this solar system was trying to contact the planet Earth.
Right.
And you can still download it, extension. I just Google it. I'm sure it still exists.
Yeah.
So there is, it's been around for a long time, and those chips in the cars are powerful.
Right. Very powerful.
Some of AMD's best chips, CPUs in there for one thing.
Yeah, but the Tesla self-driving chip is really
Also
right.
Very, but I don't know which. I've never thought about it that this at this detail. I would imagine it's the CPU that's doing it, not Tesla's full self-driving chip, which is not terribly advanced compared to the CPU from AMD.
Right.
The full self-driving chip is designed perfectly for what it does, but that's not general compute.
No. Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting, and we should dig into that.
Yeah.
See if we can find an answer. What is the distributed compute potential, and what's the chip that actually is providing that distributed compute?
I'm gonna go with it's the Tesla inference FSD engine, not AMD's, because AMD's thing's just running the infotainment center.
I don't know.
Right?
I'd like to know.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought, just in terms of anecdotes, that the fact that FSD adoption picked up after the Robotaxi event on October 10th was interesting. We talk a lot about the fact that Tesla doesn't do any advertising, and essentially 1010 turned out to be a big advertising stunt, right? Because I don't think there's much other words, and there's not much better way to describe it than that. But I have seen lots of Instagram reels about it. People ask me about Optimus. They ask me about full self-driving cars. So obviously it did help get some of the word out there, and then they saw an uptick in FSD.
Yeah. I do think, like with the pricing of these cars being so much, when I drive around with my Cybertruck and people always come over and ask me about it and stuff, I invariably ask them how much they think it costs, and it's anywhere from $150,000 to $250,000 is the answer. The Cybertruck itself costs $79,000. Full self-driving add on another $8,000, so it was $85,000, $88,000, less than $90,000. A souped-up Ford F-150 costs you what, Bryce? $85,000, $90,000?
Yeah, every bit of that.
So I mean, it's the same price as a good high-end F-150.
Oh, not F-150. I was thinking of the big trucks. I don't know. I don't know what a souped up F-150 costs.
I think it's about $90,000. I looked it up.
Really? Yeah.
And so, it's the car. Like if they could get the words out, like nobody realizes the Cybertruck is basically bulletproof.
Yeah.
The full self-driving works even in cities. Nobody knows that. How many people are watching? I was saying earlier, I don't think 1 in 20 people have ever even been in a Tesla, much less know that the Tesla product is that the cars themselves are that much better. Advertising would get that, at least the average Joe who's listening to the Kamala or Trump commercials and believing whatever they're saying is going to be like, oh my God, the sign. And then it'll be annoying for those of us who've been in the Tesla world for years to have to be like, did you know the Tesla cars drive themselves? And you're like, yeah, I do know that. But it would be great if everybody was telling me that instead of not even thinking that was even possible.
Yeah.
So there would be, if he'd spend what GM and Ford spend $4 or $5 billion each a year on advertising every year, and they say nothing. They're like, hey, you want to be cool?
Right.
You want to be hot, chick? Oh, you want a hot chick? Oh, you should drive a GM. Look at this dude picking up a hot chick in a GM.
Yeah.
It's always like selling an image to you.
Right.
And Elon has said that if they ever do start advertising, it would be to actually provide information about the product to people. And I think he should do that. I do think he should spend $1 billion advertising just how amazing the features in these cars and the costs of these cars. I think I think he'd sell more cars if people knew what the product was actually priced at and what the features actually were.
just take the money that you're getting, the 100% gross margin money from the regulatory credits, and spend that on advertising.
They got $2 billion of free money from Ford and GM just so far this year, and they got another 3 months. So they're going to get like upwards of $2.5, almost $3 billion in money, and 99% free money from their competitors this year. Take half of it and do some commercials at the Super Bowl.
Explaining how you're better than your competitors.
Yes, the guys who gave, and you should literally say the commercial. We're using Ford's money to tell you how great our cars are. Scott, any thoughts comments before we wrap up? Last words. It was a good call, wasn't it? Yeah. All right, people. Peace, love, and happiness. That's the Elon show for today. I mean, Tesla Q3 earnings report for today. Elon's show would be long. He's got a lot of shit going on.
Yeah, it'll take all day. We don't have that kind of time.
We don't have that kind of time. We got a job to do. All right, peace, love, and happiness. Scott, stock tomorrow. We'll we'll close at. It closed today at 2:13. It's up at 2:38 after hours. Prediction for the close tomorrow. Dang, Bryce.
I'm gonna go with 242.
I was going with 242 also, but I'm not going to go with that now that Bryce said that. I'll take the upper 253. It's like the Price is Right when they finish at the last person and they're like, I'll bet $1 over that guy. Yeah, that's sorry. I just cut you off, dude. Now, if it's not exactly 252, if it's even 252.55, this is not the Price is Right. I'll be taking credit. It will be a little bit of FOMO driven. The market's tried to be FOMO driven until today for many days in a row. Had a little pause to that today. I looked actually, triple Q's up 36 bips after hours. There was a time 2 years ago when Tesla would have, if it were up 12% after hours, the triple Q's would be up 1.5% after hours. But its impact and its meaning to the broader markets has dwindled over the last years. It's down 60% from its highs. That would happen. So, I was going to ask one last question. Scott, people pay for a company.
Yes, it's great.
I'm going to repeat what Scott just said because that is a great point. People were paying $400 a share, $1.2 trillion market cap for a company 2 years ago that they are now paying $238 per share, which would be $700 billion, $720 billion market cap, somewhere around there, for a company that's nowhere near as far along, nowhere near as good as it is today. Yeah. So 2 years ago, it was worth double what it is, or almost double what it was. Yeah, it's actually down more than, I guess it is 55% at this point from its highs. I think it was 420. Wouldn't that?
Do you think it hit 420?
It'd be perfect if it had. I mean, come on, Elon loves the 420.
Yeah, I know.
Tesla all-time high. I think it's like 418. It wasn't quite 420.
409.97.
409.97. So there you go. At any rate, it is a lot less than that right now, even 40% less than that. And the car company, the revenues have grown tremendously. Yeah. The sales have grown tremendously. More importantly than that, the potential for this company to become a multi-10 trillion dollar business is real now.
And that was 3 years ago.
3 years ago, that's right. So it's a great point, Scott. Thanks for being here. All the people watching, peace, love, and happiness. We did this call, and now I think 3 times we've done the Tesla earnings.
Yeah, every quarter this year.
Yeah, it's fun.
The first call was the first quarter this year, which was a total disaster.
We thought about never doing this again after that.
So the fact that we're still here, we're still kicking.
All right, that was the other question I was going to have. Scott, 250 tomorrow, it's 240, whatever. Tomorrow, still a buy? Long term? Short term? Bryce?
Yeah, yes to both.
I'm worried a little more about the short term just because I have so much PTSD with this stock getting crushed for no reason occasionally. But I agree with you both. I think I definitely would rather buy it than sell it tomorrow at 240.
My feeling, the takeaway almost was that the market may have feel like it got the details it was looking for on 1010 today, and it was enough detail.
That's a good point.
It was enough detail to satisfy the street and roll on, and the buy recommendations come out. But I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. No promises.
Yep.
Nothing's easy in this job. Peace and love. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in 3 months. You can also tune in every Monday on the same channel and watch us talk about the AI revolution with John DeOliveira, who's been working in AI for 30 years. And occasionally on Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern, we do the Skytle's Space Debris Crypto Cleaning Currency Volunteers Call. It's not as exciting as the AI and Tesla stuff, but let's give it some time. Space is going to be $1 trillion business, multi-tens of trillions of dollars business too in 20 or 30 years. So guess who the guy who runs the best space company on the planet also runs? Bryce?
You asking?
Yeah.
Yes. SpaceX, Elon.
Oh, Elon. That I couldn't think of it. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.